Hello and welcome to a special edition of Moxie Talk with Kirt Jacobs, where we sit one-on-one with those individuals seeking the office of Louisville Metro Mayor. And in addition, all candidates seeking the office were notified and offered the opportunity to appear on our program. Now, our sole purpose today is to allow the candidates a chance to offer the audience some keen insights into how they see themselves and their potential mayoral administration, and most importantly, just what makes them tick. I'm Kirt Jacobs, host and creator of Moxie Talk with Kirt Jacobs, and we are coming to you from the Louisville Metro TV studios in downtown Louisville, Kentucky. And joining us today is independent mayoral candidate Taylor Everett. He's currently Director of Government Services for the 811 Group and a graduate of the University of Louisville who's seeking to be Louisville Metro's next mayor. Mr. Everett, welcome to this special edition of Moxie Talk.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Let's get started. So, what drives you to pursue a life, a career in public service?
When I was younger, actually, I had to be on a lot of government-sponsored programs, and I saw how important they were to the people that needed them. And, really, I told myself at that point, once I got to a point where I felt that I could, do some good and get the experience needed to be a leader for a city like Louisville, that I would do everything that I could to make sure programs like that and other things that were necessary for the people that would need them would always be there. So that's been my big driving factor really since I've been a young man.
Okay. Who or what inspired you to a career or, again, a life in public service?
Honestly, I have a lot of family in the military, and seeing what they've done, the sacrifices they've made for the country, and actually my younger brother is in the Marines right now.
Oh, okay.
And so it's when you're an older brother and you know what he's going through, that kind of motivates you to do things that are a little bit beyond just yourself.
Whom do you credit most influential in your life, Taylor? And again, it can be more than one, personal or professional.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's my mom. So I grew up, with her being, a single mom pretty much my entire life. She had 3 boys. We did a lot of things. And
hats off to you, Mom.
Yeah, right. So when you see the drive that it took to raise us 3 boys and to see the success that all of us have seen thus far. You kind of realize that once you become a parent how tough it was. And so it's been a driving factor my entire life.
So I love this next insightful question. What is it like to be Taylor Everett, when nobody's looking, so to speak? Yeah.
Kind of leading back to my last answer, it's the main thing that I strive for is being a great dad and a good father. So basically, again, didn't have a dad growing up. I told myself growing up that I was not going to be that. And every day, most of my time is dedicated to making sure that I'm a good dad for my daughter, and a good husband for my wife, who was actually a public school teacher, and she goes through a lot as well. So it's being a dad and it's being a husband are the 2 main things that people don't see behind the scenes.
What do you consider to be the most defining moment of your life, Taylor? And it can be more than one, personal or professional, or maybe even political in this case.
Yeah, I'd say one personal, one professional. The personal one is when I had my daughter. I was very young when she was born, and that was a moment in your life where you don't really know what to do, right? And it's either you kind of run away or you buckle down. And I was thankful enough to have people in my life that showed me how to buckle down and be a good dad. And it's really defined my character ever since then. And then professionally, it was actually starting the division in my company that I do now, which is the government division. No one ever had known what to do or how to sell it or how to work in government. And over the last 7 years, that's what I've dedicated my career to, is learning how to work with governments all the way from the federal government to a local city. And so it's been a wild ride, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. But it's definitely starting that division is the most defining point of my career thus far.
Yeah, something about having a child changes you on the cellular level. I know when I had my boy, everything changed, man.
I think what I've realized is that, right, you go from being able to be selfish whenever you want to you can't, right? It's your life is now for them, not for you. And that's been, to me, the biggest change I've seen in myself.
Sure, I totally agree. What do you consider to be your biggest triumph so far, Taylor? Again, it can be personal or professional.
Yeah, on the professional side, it is the division I started 7 years ago is now one of our largest divisions in the company, right? And so you're seeing it grow from a couple of people around you to now having about 60 people in the division that are doing it. That's really fulfilling. And then on the personal side, I'm going to keep hammering it home. It's just being a good father. I think I can look my daughter in the eye and know that I'm doing everything I can for her right now and in the future, right? And I think that's part of what this is, right? I feel like if she looked at me and things in society and said, what are you doing about that, I can hopefully say I'm trying to do something, you know?
I appreciate that. Yeah. So for those in the audience that may not know, what is the 811 Group?
Yeah, so it's an IT services company, right?
Okay.
So think about, Louisville Metro is a great example, right? So if they need a new website or, computers upgraded or they're going to install a new application, we would provide the consultants to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine right now, some of the stuff that I'm working with is working with, Army at Fort Knox, and we're providing IT people down there at the base. So it's a really cool, fun, gig that we're in right now.
So Taylor, what do you consider to be the hardest life lesson you've ever had to learn?
Honestly, seeing my dad passed away last year. Yeah, and it was due to alcoholism, and I think that experience, I didn't want to go through it, but what I learned from that is that there are just things that are outside of your control. I mean, we did everything we could, and nothing could change what had happened. And I think swallowing that, understanding that sometimes things are out of your control, it's really frustrating. Yeah. But I've had to learn it in a hard way.
So do you feel your life triumphs and life's hard lessons have made you a better leader?
That is part of the reason why I feel like I'm qualified to run for this race, right? Is that, I've gone through a lot of issues that I feel like the citizens of Louisville have gone through, right? There's people that have been young parents, who have been on medical programs or on government programs, right? Who have lost loved ones early, who have loved ones in the military. Lucky or unlucky, I've been through a lot of things that, maybe not everyone as one person has gone through. And yeah, I do feel like it's helped me be a better leader.
So did you have an aha moment when you decided to run for mayor? I mean, there has to be something that tweaks you, as I say, for anyone and I've run for public office.
Yeah.
You just something happens.
It's funny, it was my younger brother. So my younger brother, he was going to be a teacher coming out of college, and he, at COVID hit, he was going to go to South Korea and teach, so all that got put on hold. Decides after that time that he's going to go to the Marines. Wow. And he looks at me and he's like, man, you've talked about running for office, for how long? And I mean, when your younger brother by 8 years looked at you and said that and know what he's about to do, I was
sure.
like, all right, you know what? I need to step up and act on what I've been talking about for a while. So it was that moment about, a little over a year ago that he was living with me and we were having that discussion.
So knowing what you know now, would you have done anything differently? And that can be professional, personal, or political.
I think I would have said yes to things more often than not.
I like that.
For better or for worse, when you were asking about behind closed doors, right? I very much rely on being, a good dad and a good husband. But there are times where, again, for better or for worse, that I've sacrificed friends and I've sacrificed other family to make sure that I do those things. Sure. And sometimes my wife looks at me and says, our daughter's 13, she'll be okay. You know what I mean? So I think looking back, I wish I would have said yes to going out with friends and doing activities that I may have said no to because I was holding it so tight in the family sector. But, I think there could be worse things. So
Taylor, what do you find exciting about the possibility of being Louisville's next Metro mayor?
What I've found working with governments is they're not extremely transparent. And I think that to me is the one thing that excites me the most is that, at least what I've seen, is I understand why that is, but I'm hoping to change that. Like I really, really want Louisville to be known as, like, if you're a citizen, I can get the information that I'm looking for right away. I'm not waiting for a redacted copy of something. I'm not waiting for a video 3 months later. I'm excited to make it more transparent to the normal everyday citizen. What do you consider, Taylor, to be your most significant risk, and did it pay off? Professionally, okay, it was starting the division like I talked about. Sure. I was doing very well in the job that I was in, and I could have stayed there and led a very good life. I felt that there was more out there for me professionally, so starting the division that I've done in my company, it was a very big risk, and there were years that it was not going well. So that to me in itself was the biggest risk I took. And the other one, actually, this is again a little bit more about the personal life, is my daughter was born with a rare condition of her leg, and so it's her right leg is shorter than her left. So you have to wear a prosthetic, right? Well, when I was a younger father, and we had to go to a bunch of different doctors and basically decide what the future of her life was going to look like with that leg. And we took a risk and went with a doctor out in Baltimore that specialized in her condition. And thank God it has paid off in spades ever since. So those are the two things that I'd say are my biggest risks that I've taken thus far. That's great. Yeah. What do you consider to be your best piece of advice, Taylor, and how would you apply that to a Taylor Everett mayoral administration? Yeah, I got this piece of advice. It was actually in a career coaching session, and it's don't sacrifice what you want in the future for what you want now. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that both personally or in a professional setting or a political setting, mm-hmm. it just goes such a long way, right? Because at the end of the day, it's so easy to make that snap decision that's going to make you feel real good right now. But if you keep your beacons in mind, if you keep your goals in mind, those will shape your short-term decisions. Mm-hmm. And I mean, even as a mayor and as an office, if we can do that as a city, mm-hmm. it's going to go a long way. It's going to shape a lot of decisions, make things a lot easier to say this is what we're going to do because we've all agreed on the long-term vision that we're looking for.
I like that. I love this next question for a politician. Do you ever feel misunderstood, Taylor?
I do. Yeah, I do. And the reason is that I was an entrepreneurship minor in college.
Mm-hmm.
I had a child young. A lot of the people around me have not gone through the things that I've gone through. So again, when some of them are going to do certain things, I'm not interested in them anymore, right? Mm-hmm. And there are things in life that I'm aspiring to be, mm-hmm. and I've found that there's not everyone sitting here running for mayor, right? So I think that what makes you feel misunderstood is that to me, this is an incredible goal that I want to shoot for. I've wanted to shoot for a long time, and I sometimes people haven't, and I think that's fine. Mm-hmm. That's why I feel a little misunderstood.
Now, if you could have written a letter or a note to self, as I like to call it, to the younger Taylor Everett, what would you have told him? Say he's 10 years old.
10 years old?
5, 15, I don't know.
When I was younger, I wish I would have worked harder. Mm-hmm. When I was coming up through high school and college, I was very into sports. I feel like I was good at it, and there were things in school, right, that I was smart enough to get through, but I simply just did not put the amount of work in that was needed to be excellent when I was young. Mm-hmm. And I've learned that as I've gotten older that's what it requires, is you just have to put extra work into the people around you are not willing to do. Mm-hmm. And I would have told that 10-year-old self, get to it now, and you're going to be in a really good spot when you're a little younger in your age. So, yeah.
So can you define success or leadership in one word in the great English lexicon, as I always like to say, Taylor? And it can be a phrase, and for politicians, one word might not be good enough, so it's all you, man.
One word is honesty.
Okay.
I don't know if you want me to explain it or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's honesty. So when I think about the leaders in my life that I aspire to and the people that I feel like get the most done, it starts with that. You can't be a good leader without, at the base and the core of what you are, is that you are honest. Because if you're coming from a place that isn't that, then people are going to find out eventually. And then the stuff that you want to accomplish isn't always going to have some sort of mark on it, or it's not going to get accomplished because people won't believe in you. So to me, it's honesty. That's the bedrock of everything.
Mm-hmm. If you could change one thing in the Louisville metro community, what would that be?
I wish it felt like one community.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at the end of the day, I live on the East End. Mm-hmm. It doesn't seem like the same place as the West End. It doesn't seem like the same place of a lot of places in Louisville. Mm-hmm. And I think if there's one thing that I wish we could change is that no matter where you went in the city, it felt like Louisville, mm-hmm. and not the West End of Louisville or the East End or the South End.
Mm-hmm. So, if you're elected mayor, if you're fortunate enough to be Louisville's next metro mayor, what would a Taylor Everett mayoral administration stand for?
It goes back to what leadership looks like and what I talked about earlier. It's honesty and transparency from day one. So from day one, open records requests, data that people try to get, that's going to be immediately sent to the people that are requesting it right away. And I think also too, when people are asking questions of us at press conferences, and anyone in the administration, they're going to know at the end of the day, don't dance around the question. Answer it directly, even if the people aren't going to like the answer. Mm-hmm. And get the people that are asking for information, the information quickly that they want. That's what it'll stand for first and foremost. And after that, I think at the end of the day, it's going to stand for getting public safety right. I mean, we all know it's affecting everything in our neighborhoods. And once we get the honesty and transparency thing right, mm-hmm. I think that the public safety will come because the citizens will be more open to options and what needs to be done there because they trust their government.
Mm-hmm. Now, at the end of this campaign, if on the flip side, unfortunately, you're not elected to be Louisville's next metro mayor, what might you see utilizing your skill sets in the community? What would that look like?
Yeah, it's funny. I've been playing pickleball a lot lately.
Really?
Yes. And one thing I've been thinking about is trying to get more youth into sports and activities like that. That to me is what kept me on the straight and narrow growing up. And a sport like that to me, I get my butt kicked by an 85-year-old grandma in those places, right? So I think it's so cool that a sport like that and others are coming out that you don't have to be the most athletic kid in school to go play sports or do an activity. That, to me, is a calling that has been, growing and growing as I've been getting more involved.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like that answer.
Yeah.
It's an honest answer.
Yeah, man. I'm trying to be, right? It's a bedrock.
Exactly. So now back to a little more of a positive spin.
Sure.
Let's say you are fortunate enough to be elected Louisville's next Metro Mayor.
Yeah.
How do you see yourself at the end of that first or second term if you're reelected? How would you want the Taylor Everett mayoral administration to be remembered?
So it goes back to what the goal is, right? So it's first is the transparency. Did we back up what we said we were going to do from the beginning, right? Mm-hmm. So I want us to be able to look us in the eye and say they did what they said they were going to do, or if they didn't, they told us why things had to change, and we believed them, right? So that's first and foremost. And then the second thing is, is this place a better place from when we started, right? I mean, I think it's a very simple rule: leave something better than what you found it. Mm-hmm. Is it better? Are businesses more excited to be here? Are people safer? Are there more activities? Does the city feel like one? Mm-hmm. I want it to be known for those things, right? I want to back up what we say, or if we have to change what we're saying from the beginning, tell people why.
So Taylor, this is a question that we've offered every candidate running for Louisville Metro Mayor. This is your opportunity to speak directly to the audience and basically make a closing argument, if you will. As those attorneys in the audience that might watch this will know what that means is you kind of plead your case
Sure.
to why you should be Louisville's next Metro Mayor. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. My main reason that I feel like I should be Louisville Metro Mayor is I've gone through it a little bit here. Is I've been through a vast amount of things in my life thus far, and I feel like I can talk to and understand what the normal Louisvillian goes through every day. My hope is that you will always have the support that you will need when times are tough. I want to make sure that everyone gets the same starting point as best as possible, and then the opportunities to grow as an individual and as a company are available to you just like it should be anywhere else in the country, and hopefully better. But at the end of the day, no matter who is elected mayor, be the change that you want to see in the city. No matter who you elect, it's not going to solve all the problems that you're looking to be solved. But if you are that change that you're hoping to see in your elected officials, it's going to help no matter who is elected. So I appreciate the consideration, and I hope that I am your next Louisville mayor come November.
Taylor, I think it's a great note to end on.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for giving your valuable time to on Moxie Talk with Kirt Jacobs. And for those out there watching, please remember, tell everyone to please vote on Tuesday, November 8th, 2022.